Welcome to Maniac Movies LLC. I do updates Wednesdays and Fridays. Like, share, and subscribe. And let's talk about stay out of the attic. Stay out of the effing attic. Stay out of the bleep. Why do they put curse words in the titles of movies? You can't. How do you describe this movie? Stay out of the attic. I'm calling it stay out of the attic.
Good morning. We're here to facilitate your move.
This place is huge, bro.
That is 4 times your rate. It is imperative that the move happen tonight. The basement and the attic are not your concern.
This shit is creepy.
Yo, boss, come here, man.
What you find?
Holocaust experiments.
Okay, so stay out of the attic is kind of what you'd get if you took like 3 or 4 other movies and just put them in a blender and got a really, really gory, low-budget independent horror film. Now, I'm not going to say this movie's wall-to-wall violence because it's not, but what it does have is extreme and actually kind of nasty. And coming from someone who can sit and watch Ichi the Killer like it's nothing, that's saying something. This movie gets pretty grody. So, I kept kind of thinking, okay, so this is like The People Under the Stairs meets Don't Breathe, but with Nazis. So I guess meets Green Room, I guess. I don't know. so, so this movie is about a moving company called Second Chance, ran by a guy who's an ex-con, and he hires ex-cons. So the guy, he's white, and he hires black girl, Latin guy that I think they said were related. I'm not positive. So maybe it's like different fathers or something. But they all have criminal records, and that's kind of the way he's running his business. Is he's hiring people. That's why it's called Second Chance. He's hiring people with a criminal record to give them a second chance, like he himself has been given a second chance. He's got these Nazi tats on his arm that he tries to keep covered up. He says, like I was in jail. It's what I had to do to survive, whatever. Although he still has the weird kind of like Nazi-esque haircut where it's white walled and then you just have it on top like Hitler had. So I don't know why he'd keep rocking that hairdo if he's trying to put it behind him, but whatever. But so they get a job cleaning up a big creepy house, and this is a horror movie that never bothers pretending there's not something happening. Like this is a big creepy house. They flat out say at the beginning, "I ain't cleaning up no haunted house. It ain't nothing. It's just the crypt keeper lives here." And yeah, the beginning of this movie is actually really lame, and I was really close to just turning it off. But the reviews on Shudder, this is streaming on Shudder, were positive, so I was like, I'll power through. Maybe the dialogue just sucks. And honestly, after the first 5 minutes, it settles in. And yeah, so they're cleaning up a big ass creepy house run by a creepy, creepy dude. And the creepy, just this weird old German guy who, and I was like, what is this, Salem's Lot? Does he keep vampires in the damn basement? But it's Mr. Barlow. But yeah, so it tells you right off the bat, okay, this old guy's evil. This house is weird. Again, I was just reminded of so many other movies like House of the Devil. Like, there's never any moment in House of the Devil where you don't know, oh yeah, these people are evil. She's in danger. But so you got the three movers. They're just kind of they're given this incentive, an extra $1,000 if they can get this whole house packed up by the next day, which also reminded me of Session 9. But so it's just bust ass, get done by in less than 24 hours, which would be nearly impossible to do. I was thinking when we hand them the extra $1,000, I was like, dude, call a friend, offer them 500. You still made an extra 500 on the job. But whatever. He doesn't do that because this movie didn't have the budget to hire a fourth actor. So yeah, this is a very insular movie. It's all the house. It's all the house, and then immediately outside of the house, you're basically with the 4 main characters and a couple of very minor supporting characters, and that's it. But yeah, they did do a good job. Like it's well shot. It looks good. The makeup effects are very good. The gore effects are generally really solid as well. Like I said, this movie actually might make you cringe a little bit in a couple of places, especially if you don't like eyeball damage. So it does actually a pretty solid job of establishing its 3 characters. The boss guy who has kind of a laid back, but with just a little bit of an edge. And I've actually worked with people who are ex-cons, and that tends to be the case once they've calmed down and gotten a job, is that they can do it, but you can tell that if you push them too far, it's going to be a problem. I remember one guy specifically who was out of a gang I used to work with when I was a house painter. He had AK-47 tattooed on his arm, and I remember one time him going off, and I was like, okay, dude, I'm just going to step back now. But so he has that kind of vibe. The Latin guy just spends the whole time talking about his daughter, and for the record, in a horror movie, when someone talks a whole lot about their kids, that usually means that something terrible is going to happen to them. And then the black girl is really a pretty stereotypical black girl as far as the way she's written. She just is funny and then talks about how she'll go upside someone's head if they deserve it. And it's the characters are believable, but they're not. There's no real dimension to them. These are just three very basic characters. But you spend enough time with them, and the actors are authentic enough that you do kind of. It doesn't. It's not a movie where you're waiting for someone to die. You're actually kind of like I don't really necessarily want any of these three to die. None of them are annoying necessarily. Yeah, they're all fairly solid. The actors are all fine. The creepy old guy's the standout. The creepy old guy plays a character named Vern. He is weird and he is legit. I went through his filmography and he's kind of a that guy actor in that he's been in a ton of stuff, but he's never been famous. Like he was the prosecutor in this movie. He was old man in this. He just a lot. I mean, he's got to be. I think he's 70, so he's been in a ton of stuff. He's just a working stiff actor, but he's good in this movie and he kind of steals the show. He is really legitimately solid. He's not German, although he's putting on a really good German accent. So yeah, this is a hard movie to describe without giving any spoilers away. I pretty much watched it blind. It just popped up on Shudder, and I saw that it actually had a good star review. And I was bored, so let's check out this movie. And yeah, the poster on Shudder sucks. The picture of a door, like it's like that is the most basic, boring, jump scary looking poster you can imagine. The poster up on IMDb isn't great either, but it's better than that. So yeah, this is a pretty solid, gory little movie. Like I said, People on the Stairs, Don't Breathe, House of the Devil. It's got that kind of vibe to it. So if you like any of those three movies, definitely give this one a look. Acting solid, gore solid. Pacing's a little off. Takes a while to get started. Uh, I didn't. The ending's a little iffy. It's hard to describe, but it does one of the horror cliches that every horror fan hates. That just why do you keep doing this? So yeah, I'm not going to talk too much more about anything in depth until I give the spoiler warning. So yeah, I mean, if you pay for Shudder, it's free and it's a worthwhile. Now, this whole thing of well, it's free on Netflix, you might as well. No, your time is worth something. Like that's how I always think. When I hate it when reviewers say that. When people say that about a movie, well, it's free, so you might as well. No, I could do something else with my 2 hours. I could watch an old DVD of a movie I love. I could go to the gym. I could go have a drink at the bar. I could go do any one of the like. Just because it's free isn't enough reason to watch it. I definitely don't think that. So this is actually worth your time if you're paying for the service. I will say that. So, spoilers from here on out. I'm not going to give away the ending, but I will talk about major plot points that go beyond what you'd know if you just read the synopsis. So, spoilers. Okay. So, Nazis. Yeah, that's kind of given away, but not in a very specific way. And what it turns out is that the old man is Vern, and he's trying to follow the Nazi death camp things. And one thing I'll actually credit this movie, and some people are probably going to say this is in bad taste, and even I was kind of sitting there like, this is a little iffy. But then again, I never particularly liked Nazi exploitation movies, those things from the 1970s, like what Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, or Nazi Death Camp Experiment. Like that. I never really liked those movies. That's what Tarantino was kind of doing an homage to in Inglourious Basterds, but I never particularly cared for those things. Not that I necessarily thought they were in bad taste, although they were definitely in bad taste. I can look past that, but those movies are also just kind of grim and unpleasant. But this is kind of a Nazi exploitation movie in that it's about this deranged old German guy who's built his house to continue Nazi death camp experiments. And the thing about Nazis as villains is today we are so inundated with the term Nazi that it doesn't mean what it used to. Jon Stewart even complained about this, is that throwing the word Nazi around just as a way of describing your political opponents robs Nazis of the evil that they actually committed. Nazis did some of the most atrocious shit of modern age, of the last 100 years. And no, when you think of Nazi at this point, you just think of like annoying political faction that won't shut up, like Twitter weirdos. Like you don't think of what it actually was. Like they did heinous stuff in this movie. You don't see a lot of it, but what needle in the eye there. You don't see a lot of it, but what you do see kind of reminds you, oh yeah, this was disgusting and horrifying and horrible, and then yeah, like this really was really bad. So they reference Dr. Mengele, and I was never all that fascinated by the Nazi death camps. Frankly, it's like okay, horrible things happened, but I never felt like I needed to research it too much beyond that. But I do know who Dr. Mengele is because Slayer did that song Angel of Death, which is about Dr. Mengele's experiments. And they even mention him being called the Angel of Death, which any heavy metal fan will immediately go, oh yeah, I remember that Slayer song. But Yeah, so he's got some really just messed up people. There's not a lot of them. I mean, like I said, you could tell that this movie's budget was on the low end, so I think they would have done more if they had had more money. But as far as what they show enough to where it does make you cringe, and and if you actually stop to think, oh yeah, this happened to a lot of people in the 40s, like a lot. It's horrifying. Like these people were, if you ever saw the Roman Polanski movie, The Pianist, I mean, these were just regular people that were pulled out of their homes and taken to these camps and essentially tortured to death. And torture not in the generic stabbed it or whatever, but they were like legitimately horrible things were done to them. And as exploitative as this movie is, it does at least remind you that the word Nazi should mean more than an annoying Twitter weirdo. That someone who just says rude shit on the street. That this is a term that should have a lot more meaning than it does anymore. So yeah, overall, pretty solid gore flick. Really good villain. Some memorably nasty stuff. The characters are likable enough to where you don't want to see them hurt. The lead guy who runs the crew, he was a little iffy just in that he's supposed to be having this kind of character arc, but it didn't really land because he's not on camera enough. But and he kind of reminded me of the guy from Bloody Hell. If you haven't seen Bloody Hell, it was released about 3 4 months ago, and despite having a really lame title, that's actually a great horror movie. That's one to watch. This movie is more like if you pay for Shudder, yeah, you should watch it. It's worth the price of your subscription and your time. It's not necessarily something to seek out though, unless you're just a really big fan of creepy ass big house movies, and I'm sure there are people who like that. In the same way, I'm a fan of Cannibal in the Woods movies or Amazon Cannibal. I don't know. Those kind of things, Psycho in the Woods movies. You know, those are the types of things that I'll pretty much watch it as long as it doesn't look awful. This kind of thing, not entirely my style, but like I said, the good reviews on Shudder got me to thinking it, and I'm glad I watched it. It had a good villain in it, had some really nasty moments. Overall, solid enough. If you watch it, watch the credits for about 2 minutes. It is one of those movies that it has kind of like not a mid credit sequence, but a couple minutes in, you do find out the fate of one particular character that otherwise you don't quite know what happened to. So yeah, that's stay out of the whatever stupid title. Stay out of the fucking attic, I think. Which you also need to stay out of the basement, but I guess that was already taken by that really old movie from the 70s. Don't Look in the Basement. I think that was called Don't Look in the Basement. Anyway, that's all I got. I'll have another update Wednesday unless I see something I feel like talking about between now and then. See you.